So what's up guys, it's Ash here and welcome back to a brand new video. The clip you're seeing here is my last game of the weekend league. It's just to show you that we did end up getting rank 2 because I couldn't actually show you this in the menu. It wouldn't show my record. So we went 18-2 and we were actually very unlucky not to get rank 1 because we did lose one game on penalties and the other one was just a really close game that we were just unfortunate to win. So as you can see there, we did get rank 2 and yeah, one of the formations I used this weekend which was very good was the 4-1-2-1-2 and they are the tactics that I'm going to show you guys now. So yeah, let's get right into it guys, and yeah, I hope you find these useful. If you guys want coins for FC24, make sure you check out MMOEXP.com. Their link is down in the description. They're very fast, they're very cheap, they're very reliable, and if you use my code Rema you can get yourself a lovely 5% discount. Alright then guys, so starting off with the custom tactics. For the defensive style, we have this on balanced as always. The reason for this is it gives you the best control over your defense. So when you want to be aggressive, you're able to do that, and then when you want to be a little bit more passive and back off a bit, you can also do that. So balanced is definitely the most controlled form of defense, and when it comes to applying pressure in this game, we don't actually have to use the pressure tactics. We'll get on to what we can do in a moment. So balanced is the way to go. Moving on to the defensive width guys, because I wasn't liking how much space I was giving my opponents through the middle a lot of the time over the past week, I did decide to just narrow that width down just to fill up those gaps in the middle so our opponents can't just play right through the middle of us. Of course, the trade-off is that they do have the ability to go down the wings a lot and do a lot of wide play, but I honestly find that to be pretty inevitable even if you have a high defensive width. So this has just seemed to work really nicely for me this weekend. Moving on to the depth guys, this is what I was on about when it came to the pressure in this game. On the new gen versions of the game, if you have your depth on 71 or above, you get this automatic press from the AI. It's very strong, very overpowered, and the game basically defends for you. You also get an automatic overload of the ball side, which is super strong and hard for your opponent to play through. It also breaks your opponent's attacking AI, making it very difficult for them to actually create any chances. So this is honestly very overpowered, and I hope EA change it because it is actually ruining the game at this point. But if you want those results, I suggest using this. If you're on the old gen version of the game, however, or you just don't want to use this, just use something like 60 depth or whatever you're comfortable with, because this thing is new gen only. Moving on to the build-up play guys, I like to have this on balance. This is because I find it to be the most consistent, controlled and varied form of build-up. When you have this on balance, you can pick and choose when and where you use each form of build-up. So if you want to play slowly, you can do that, and then if you decide you want to speed things up, you can also do that. So it does give you the most variety, which the other settings don't give you, which is why I like it so much. Moving on to chance creation guys, now this one is a very important one, probably the second most important behind the 71 depth thing at the moment. Direct passing. Now the reason we have direct passing is because it's the only setting which will actually make your attackers move in the correct ways to help you beat those park the bus players. Direct passing makes your players like track back in the penalty box, meaning that pass is open so you can cut it back to them and score. Unfortunately, this is the only effective way to score goals at the moment, and direct passing is definitely the best for it. Direct passing also seems to make your players make more dynamic movements, so it is easier to attack as a whole, and it also makes your attacking players bunch up against the opposition defenders, so you can isolate a specific defender and take him on in a 1v1 play. So direct passing, very, very important guys. Now moving on to the attacking width, because the 4-1-2-1-2 narrow is obviously a narrow formation, we don't want to have a crazy high width because it will turn it into a wider formation, which is not what this formation's about. It's supposed to be narrow, which is why we keep the width down at about 40. I don't like making this too narrow, however, otherwise your players just get glued together, and that's not good either. So you don't want it to be wide, but you also don't want it to be too narrow either. Moving on to players in box guys, you can pretty much do whatever you want with this, but the more players you have in the box, the better chance you have of scoring. Obviously this comes with a trade-off. If you have more players in the box, you're going to get counter-attacked more often, but I seem to like having this on about 7 at the moment. It's just worked really nicely for me, but adjust this if you're not comfortable with it. As for the corners and free kicks guys, this is a preference thing, but I just have these both on 2 at the moment. This so I can get a few players into the box for the set pieces, but I can also play it short, so this just seems to be really balanced for me. Sorry to interrupt the video guys, but I have noticed around 90% of you that watch the content and not subscribed. So if you are finding any of these videos helpful, please be sure to hit that subscribe button, as it does help me out massively. Also, don't forget to drop the video a like as well. And with all that aside, guys, let's get back to the video. Now, moving on to the player instructions, guys, on both the strikers, I have made some adjustments to what I usually use. And the reason I've done them is because I wasn't getting the perfect movements out of my players when attacking using this formation previously. So I changed this, and it just made it a lot better for me over the past weekend. So on the strikers, we have them on balanced width and getting behind. What I would usually do is have them on stay central, but I just noticed them being way too static in a lot of the areas, and it just wasn't too useful, especially against like press and things like that. So having them on balanced width just seemed to get a lot more movement out of them. Sometimes they drift a bit wider to get the ball, and it just made it a bit easier to build up the play, in my opinion. So balanced width on both the strikers has been very good. I also have them on getting behind, so they do utilize their pace to get in behind the opposition defense to get us as many chances as possible. Now, I've not always been the biggest fan of getting behind, but with the way this game is at the moment, with all the high defensive lines and the pressure, I think it is very important to have these players getting in behind, otherwise you're just going to struggle to attack. That being said, if you want to have them both on mixed attack, that is also fine. Now, moving on to the cam, guys, a very instruction here, come back on defense. Now, the reason this is so important is because it will make this team defend in a 4-4-2 shape. Now, a lot of people ask why everyone does this, and the reason is, if you just take a look at this formation as it is on the screen, there is so much space down the wings, and that is not good, because that is so much space for your opponent to exploit and create chances with. You don't want to give them this much space, because a good player will tear you to shreds. So if you put this cam on come back on defense, he will come back to defend as a right midfielder in this 4-4-2 shape. And the reason the 4-4-2 shape is so good is because it's got really good coverage of both of the narrow areas and the wide areas, so it's very difficult for your opponent to attack, basically, just with this simple instruction. We also have him on get into the box across, so he's not hesitant to get into the penalty area and contribute that way. So yeah, cam instructions are very important, guys. Now, for the right centre mid, I do use a more box-to-box style player. So on this player, I like to leave him on the default settings, and then the only important thing is that we change him to cover centre. The default settings are because, like I said, a box-to-box style player, we don't just want him to defend, we want him to attack and defend and do a bit of everything. So we kind of just let him. Cover centre is very important, though, because it will make him defend as one of the centre mids in the 4-4-2 shape. Now, moving on to the CDM, guys, we have him on cut passing lanes, stay back while attacking, and cover centre. So this player is obviously very defensive, so we don't want to have him contributing to the attack, which is why we have him on stay back while attacking. He can also help you build up from those like defensive positions as well, so it is very useful to have him on stay back. Cut passing lanes means he's always going to look to break up the play, intercept those passes, and help get you the ball back. Very useful instruction yet again. And then cover centre is very important because it will make him defend as one of the centre mids in the 4-4-2 shape. Now, for the left centre mid, because I said this team defends in a 4-4-2, you don't actually have to use a centre mid in this position. You can actually use an attacker, because with this cover wing instruction, it will make this player here defend as a left mid. So you don't actually have to have somebody with good defensive stats, because they're not actually going to have to defend in that centre mid spot. So you can use like a winger here or an attacker, and they're basically just going to be used as another forward. So we have them on get forward, get into the box for cross. This is so they do contribute to the attack and basically do as much for us as possible. But yeah, you can use an actual attacker here. It's just important you have him on cover wing. Now, moving on to the fullbacks, guys, on your more attacking one, I suggest balanced attack and overlap. The reason for this is, like I said, this formation is very narrow, which is great and all, but if you're playing against a good opponent, a lot of the time they will trap you in possession. So basically they'll box you in and you'll find it very difficult to make any plays. Sometimes you just need that wider option to spread out your opposition's defense and just give you that extra angle when you're attacking. It's very useful just having one of these fullbacks on balanced overlap to make the overlapping runs to give you that wider option. On the more defensive minded player though, or the other fullback, have him on stay back and overlap. This is so you can have at least 3 defenders back at a time, but when you send him on a run forward, he will make those overlapping runs as well. As for the 2 centre backs, guys, I leave them alone, and the keeper I don't touch either. But yeah, that is everything for the video, guys. If you have enjoyed it or found it useful, please be sure to drop it a like, sub to the channel if you are new, and don't forget to turn on notifications. And with all that aside, guys, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will catch you all in the next video. Peace out, guys.